I feel like this journal is almost like emotional support for me. Every time I open it, I just feel like I'm stepping into a new room inside my brain, and it's like such a nice, warm, comforting room, because every time that you write in this journal, you're writing because you felt inspired or because you felt encouraged or motivated creatively. Right, everybody, welcome back. So today's video is very special because I'm going to be talking about keeping a commonplace journal, which I have been doing since honestly like literally December. Like, it's been like a month since I started, but it's honestly changed my life so much. And through this video, I hope that I can give you guys some ideas for what kind of things to put in your commonplace book, sort of explain like what it is, and also like my personal experience with what I've gained from doing this, because this is honestly one of the best decisions I made as a creative person, as a writer, as an artist, etc. So if you're interested in creative stuff, which I'm sure you are if you're clicked on this video or if you're watching my channel, then this is a great opportunity for you to explore the world and to collect all the things that inspire you. So if you're an artist or a writer, a creative person, or just anyone who wants to understand yourself in the world, then keeping a commonplace journal is honestly a perfect way to combine all the things that you like and to kind of understand yourself on a deeper level. So my first exposure to commonplace journaling was through a series of unfortunate events, the book series which I read in like 5th grade. There are these characters that are friends with the main characters who keep commonplace journals. I was like really inspired by that, and I always wanted to like be a journaler, and I was a journaler. I've been a journaler for a while, but I wasn't like this consistent with it until like fairly recently. And honestly, like I just really fell in love with the aesthetic of like having a journal where you just combine all of the things that you like and all the things that are interesting to you, and to just have them like on hand, kind of as like an extension of your brain outside of yourself. And with the commonplace journal, you're sort of cataloging everything that inspires you and everything that you find interesting in the world around you. Doing that really allows you to become more creative and more consistent with your art. So I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I like to put in my commonplace journal, which will hopefully give you guys some ideas if you decide to start one. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit about my experience with keeping one and kind of how that improved my life. So there are like 5 categories of entries that I put into this journal. I started this like a month ago and it's already halfway full because, you know, I'm addicted to this thing. But the first category is that I like to write down notes on media I consume. So when I read a book, I'll write down notes on like themes or like specific lines, vocab words I don't know, metaphors that the author used, plot points, like just anything that I think worked really well in the novel or anything that I would critique. I just write it all down here, especially because I'm a writer and I like to write books. I find that really helpful to sort of understand like what exactly I'm consuming and understand how to use the things that I read and incorporate those elements into my own work. So this is like a really important thing for any artist, I think, is to be able to look at other media within the same type of art that you make, and then sort of understand or identify what works, what resonates with you, what you would personally do differently, and then be able to use that when you're creating your own content. So let me look through this journal. So here's like a whole spread I wrote about The Diary of an Oxygen Thief, which is a novel I read like last Friday, I think, and I wrote so many pages about this. I'm like putting it on my bed because I'm holding my microphone because I don't have anywhere to put my microphone because this setup is like completely scuffed because I'm in my college dorm, which is like 100 square feet large. But anyway, I wrote down like some notes on what I thought worked in terms of the plot, what made me like be interested in the character, what made me dislike the character. I wrote down some vocabulary words I've never heard of so that I can learn them, and then after reading I like to like write down like all of my thoughts, kind of what I thought the big takeaways were from the book, what I thought the themes were. I believe that like fiction helps us sort of understand the real world and like navigate it as we figure out what to do with our lives, and I think fiction can be a great way to understand things because we as humans learn through experience, and even if that experience is fictional, it still contributes to you and your brain development. And after reading, I did a whole debrief. I wrote like a little essay about what I thought that the main takeaways of the book were. I wrote like, this is a story of trying to fill in the gaps in your life. It's about needing to be validated and loved and to have power. It's a story about how people who hurt others have been hurt themselves. Being able to like catalog all of these makes me a much better reader and a more aware consumer, which I'll get into later. But I think that through this process, I really became good at like identifying what exactly I like in books so that I can carry them into my own writing projects. They also like really improve my memory, because a lot of the time I just like say, oh yeah, I like that book, that's a good book, whatever, but it's like kind of hard for me to remember like what exactly I liked about it, because the modern world is so busy. We have so many things demanding our attention, and I think that writing about all the media you consume makes you a lot more intentional with what you choose to put into your brain, and also it helps you like understand everything on a much deeper level. And I also do this with movies. Last Friday, the same day I read the book, I watched Whiplash, which is one of my favorite movies now, so huge shout out to my friend Vic for recommending it to me. But as I was watching, I was writing down like in real time like the plot points. I was like, okay, now this guy is doing this thing and this thing is happening, blah blah blah. And while I was writing, I felt like I was like studying the characters or studying the plot in real time. And I was writing down like what I think makes the plot work, what I think made me root for the character, what I think the big themes were, what I thought like motivated the character, what his fears and motivations and desires were. I think that we have so much that we can learn from the world around us and from the artists that have come before us. The second type of content I put into my commonplace journal is just like a list of interesting things that I learned. So whether I'm like in class at lecture and my teacher says something interesting, or a classmate says something interesting, I just put it in here. If I learn like a fun fact or like a new vocabulary word or something that really strikes me on the news, I'll write it down in here. If I'm watching a YouTube video and I learn something new, I'll write it in here. Literally anything that resonates with me that I learned and that I didn't know before literally just goes in here. A while ago my friend showed me a YouTube video about a composer whose music is like inspired by intonations of everyday sounds and speech, and I was very inspired by that. And so I just wrote down like the composer's name, the big takeaways that I learned from that, because there's so much that we can learn from just the world around us. Like even just by stepping outside your door, you can learn so much about the world and about people. And instead of letting that all slip away, if anything catches my attention or anything seems sort of special to me or interesting, I'll just put it down in here so that I remember it. I also like to write down notes from conversations I have with friends, because I have a lot of really amazing friends who give great advice, people who like to have sort of deep conversations with me, people that I stay up until like 4 a.m. with just like yapping to, and sometimes I'll write down notes of like what my friends say. So if my friend says something particularly insightful or interesting, I'll be like, wait, can you say that again? I need to write it down, because you know, we can learn so much from the people around us, and I believe that like my favorite people are the people that I can learn from, and those are the kinds of friendships I want to cultivate. So every time my friend tells me like important life lesson that they've learned, or if they give me some good advice, then I write it down in here, because that helps me remember it. Like there is scientific evidence to show that when we write something down physically, it leaves a deeper impression in our heads and we begin to sort of internalize it better. So you're taking the things around you from the exterior world and you're turning them into a part of your interior world, and I think that's really powerful. And the fourth type of stuff that I like to put in here are notes and ideas for my creative projects. So I like to write books and stories and articles and just anything like that, and as I go about my daily life, if I have an idea for a character or a plot or like a new book or something, everything goes in here. Sometimes I'll just like start drawing like mind maps in here. I'll start sketching my characters. I'll start writing down like ideas for rewriting another project I already drafted. And it's such a great low stakes way to just be creative. And sometimes I'll also just write full on stories, poems, songs, etc. just in here. I also plan every single one of my YouTube videos in here. I don't script anything. I just write bullet points of things I definitely want to mention. And that's why you always see me holding this in all my videos. This is a great way to just think on paper, because there's no standard for a commonplace journal, right? Like nobody's gonna look at this. Nobody is going to expect you to come up with something insane inside of here. So like it doesn't need to be good. Nothing that goes in here has to be good. And I think freeing yourself from that pressure really helps the ideas flow. And finally, literally everything else goes in here. Like restaurants I want to go to, stores I want to go to, things I need to buy, things I want to read, movies I want to watch. Literally everything that I need to figure out about my life or everything that crosses my mind goes in here. It's honestly kind of silly that I'm making this video to begin with, because you can honestly put anything inside your journal and it's fair game, because it's literally just a place for you to write down anything and everything that comes to mind. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and how keeping a commonplace journal really opened my eyes and helped me step up as a person and as a creative. First of all, I feel like this journal is almost like emotional support for me. Every time I open it, I just feel like I'm stepping into a new room inside my brain, and it's like such a nice, warm, comforting room. I feel very emotionally attached to this journal because I carry it with me everywhere. It's like my lucky charm. Like every time I open it, I'm just like, wow, like I'm home. This is where I belong. Because every time that you write in this journal, you're writing because you felt inspired or because you felt encouraged or motivated creatively. So your brain starts to associate those positive feelings with you opening this journal and writing in it. So it sort of becomes like an extension of your heart or an extension of the part of your brain that makes you like really passionate and connect with the world. And that's why I think it's so valuable to have this in your life, because this is like honestly one of my biggest sources of comfort, which sounds kind of insane, but I carry it with me everywhere. Like it's always there for me when I need it, you know. It's just a great thing to have in my life. I think another really important benefit is that I'm able to remember my life. I tend to be a very aloof person. Like my mind is always wandering. I'm always thinking about something else. So as I was keeping this journal, it helps me really connect with everything that happens to me and everything that I watch and read. And like I said earlier, I feel like nowadays, like we're so overstimulated, we're so busy. If you open like TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever, you're just getting content that you never asked for. Like the algorithm is deciding what you see. It's so important now more than ever to like be aware of what you're consuming and to be intentional about what you let enter your brain. So by doing this, you're really digesting what you just watched or read, and you're like slowing down a little bit and taking the time to understand it instead of just mindlessly dumping stuff into your head. And I think this really helps you like become more conscious of the world and also just of who you are as a person and what you're innately drawn to. You're really forced to reckon with what exactly happens to you, what exactly you watch, what exactly you interact with, and what you say and what other people say to you. So it's a great way to just remember your life, because, you know, I think beauty is in the mundane. If you're able to write like sentences about how like something you saw inspired you, or how a movie you watched made you feel a certain way, then I think that's a great way to really connect with the world, with the real world, and not just like the internet. Because honestly, the internet, like it just puts like a glaze over my eyes. Being able to like articulate your thoughts and your feelings and be aware of what exactly you're letting enter you is very crucial, and keeping a journal really helps with that. And third, I feel like keeping this journal has made me a lot more creative, because like I said earlier, there are no stakes with your journal. You can write something really awful in here and nobody will know about it. So I think a lot of the time we as creative people procrastinate on our work, or we give up on our projects because we're putting them on a pedestal and we're taking them too seriously, and we're too scared to even start because we think that this idea is such a good one and we don't want to mess it up. Keeping this journal and just keeping your creative like ideas and projects in the same space where you write like random notes about your friends or whatever, or like a cool tree you saw, I think that really takes the pressure off of you, and that's how creativity flourishes. Since you take this journal with you everywhere, you always have this opportunity to be creative. You can literally just whip out your notebook at any given moment and just write something in there. There you go, like you've been creative. And I think that's beautiful, and I think it's a great way to just remember who you are as a creative person. It's like a token of who you are as a person and what you want to do and what you want to be, and it's just a great way to reconnect with your creativity with very low stake. Also, I think that keeping a journal really helps you figure yourself out and figure out your brain, understand like what exactly you're drawn to, because by nature, whatever you put inside your journal is going to be indicative of what inspires you as a person, what moves you, what makes you feel things, what makes you feel inspired to create your art, and that really helps you gain a better understanding of who you are. And learning who you are is such a crucial part of being a human being. And I also really like the aspect of it making you feel really cool, like a fictional character. Like sometimes I'll just pull this out of my bag and start writing in it in public, and I'm like, wow, like I bet I look so cool right now. It helps you solidify your identity as a creative person a lot, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm somebody who like carries a journal, I'm somebody who writes and draws out of nowhere, I'm somebody who can be inspired by the mundane. And honestly, that's just what creativity is. It's just being inspired by the mundane, is by seeing beauty in ordinary situations, because that's just how all art is made. Like art is made because the artist had something to say about life or something normal. They were able to see beyond the surface to like burrow beneath it and to excavate what lies there. And so if you keep a journal, then it'll make it much easier for you and give you a lot more opportunity to get into the habit of doing that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are somebody who keeps a commonplace journal, or you have experience with this, let me know down below. Let me know if this video helped you or inspired you, because that's really what I hope to do with this channel. And yeah, don't forget to check out out my other videos. And if you're interested in reading or writing, check out my Instagram because my novel is coming out next month and you should definitely go check it out and see what it's about. So yeah, thank you again for watching and I hope you have a good day. Toodles!